in the wilderness, terrified, yet wanting. Hello, and welcome to Content and Chai with me, the creator cooking for one else from Word and Mouth, with a little bit of downbeat hip hop in the background just to tease out some of the lower vibrations from this melodic voice. Welcome to your crash course in content strategy, the daily chat. And if you haven't checked out today's news, there it is, how to create captivating content. It's the ground zero, it's the blueprint, it's the framework. I was talking about a few things around Richard Feynman. I was talking about a little bit about John Oliver, who is an incredible broadcaster, very much admired by many of his peers like myself. Hi there, good to see you. Thanks for joining in. I'm today on the LinkedIn and I'm here on YouTube. So if you want to be on either platform, try and avoid me, otherwise you might see me there. In the meantime, as you try and run away, let's talk a little bit about what we're here for. So, Content and Chai. I built a very simple application and we're going to walk through it today. Yes, today it's been created with AI, but the results are very much human driven. What we're going to do is we're going to find a very real company and we're going to do a little bit of discovery, figure out a bit more about what its main challenges are. And then with your help, I'm going to put together a bulletproof content strategy that will take this business to the next level of success. And that would be lovely. So probably going to be 10 or 15 minutes having a bit of a chat and a twist at the end. If the application works, we'll ask AI for its own interpretation of the situation to create another solution. And in the future, this is very much what we call in the biz an MVP, a minimal viable prototype, a minimal unfunny prototype, a MUP, which sounds a bit like Mipse, which means puppies in German. Who knew? So I just need to hit the red button, bit like everybody hopes Donald Trump won't do, and see what happens. So I'm going to click generate new challenge and hope to God that the Gemini AI API earns its keep today and creates a situation that we can talk about straight away. So I have in the word of mouth content strategy mind library two different frameworks. One is called the Power Framework and the other is called the Scamper Framework. Now, what are they? Whenever I'm initiated by a client to work on their content strategy, I will put them through these, what are essentially 12 lenses, POWER and SCAMPER, and really get to the heart of what the problem is from a communications and a content perspective. So we'll be doing that today as we look a little bit into the challenges. Now, I have to say, I've not seen this company before. I know nothing about them. So I'm going to be seeing this with fresh eyes as you are. And, you know, as we start to do this, and ideally in a daily way, you'll start to see how word of mouth works. And obviously, you'll want word of mouth to come and do stuff for your biz because that's how it works. And if not, well, I hope you just enjoy the content about content strategy and make sure you've got a chai to keep you excited. Right, let's get a look and let's see what's going on here. Let's see who we're working with today. Craft Brew Collective. I'm going to visit the website. Oh, that's great. Doesn't work. What a brilliant way to start the day. I'm going to check. Well, do you know what? Craft Brew Collective. Let's see if it even is. Yes. No. Craft Brewing Collective. That will do. Here we go. Oh, wonderful. Craft Brewing Collective. Beer enthusiasts. Is this the right one? European beverage market increasingly saturated. Craft Brew Collective in Cologne, Germany. So that doesn't sound very much like these guys at all. Let's see in Cologne. See if anything comes up. Craft Beer Corner Köln. I like the sound of that. Beer belly cologne. We'll go with these guys, even though, in all honesty, it's not them. This is the nature of the beast when you get into live TV. If you've ever done a telethon, you'll know that it never goes to plan. If you're Alan Partridge, you'll do it on purpose. But let's look a little bit more. Let's focus on the ask here. 15 to 50 employee bracket. They possess the agility, read along if you like, often lacking in larger conglomerates. Challenge, here we go. The challenge is to leverage their authentic sustainability efforts as the cornerstone for developing a vibrant, engaging, and commercially impactful social content strategy that not only informs but genuinely connects. Right, have we got a SWOT? Established reputation for producing quality craft beers. Weaknesses, limited marketing resources. Problem we all have. Opportunities, growing consumer demand for sustainable produced beverages in Europe. And the threats, greenwashing. We all know about that. Intense competition in both the craft beer and non-alcoholic beverage sectors. Now, this is hindered ever so slightly. I think 7 out of 10 is optimistic by the fact that we don't actually know whether this company exists, because it's always nice to work with real businesses. But we do know this. There is an urgent need for craft brew collective to differentiate itself beyond taste and quality. We know a little bit about the business. They're a respected artisan producer, quality craft beer. So what do we do? Okay, let's get started. Let's go back to the top. Look at our power framework. What is the core objective? What is the purpose of this business? And what is the itch that it scratches? Well, there's a lot of people out there who love craft beer. The trouble is, there is a lot of craft beer. And you have to do something rather spectacular and in a very differentiated way to stand out from your competition. Because you look, when it comes to beer, and I don't know a lot about beer, I used to be a fairly frequent patron of the beer world, but not anymore. Weirdly, now I moved to Germany where beer is everywhere. But this rightly says to differentiate itself beyond taste and quality. Now, what do most craft beer fans want? Well, they want an incredibly unique taste or a familiar taste with a twist. And obviously they're interested in the quality. But I suppose the third aspect is the price. Now, there's very many different sub-audiences of craft beer. Some of them want to go for like the real high volume, the really high ABV, alcohol by volume. So, if you're in Belgium, it's unlikely that you'll find a craft beer that's less than 8%. Whereas in the UK, craft session beers can be around a 3 to 4%. So there's a market there. There's also a market for the environment. Some people want to drink it in pubs. Some people want to drink it at home. And when it comes to the price as well, this is a really important factor. So how do we create a content strategy that helps to put a focus on the sustainability of this fictional collective based in Cologne, the sustainability, while avoiding the claims of greenwashing? I don't know if Greta drinks craft beer. She would certainly be a great poster child, literally and figuratively, if she did. But we're here to develop a comprehensive content marketing strategy framework focusing specifically on the sustainability narrative across social media for the stated commercial metric. And we have the commercial metric up here: direct website inquiries from potential B2B partners and direct to consumer sales 25% within 12 months. I think that's doable. But the first thing we need to do, as per the power framework, is figure out the W in power, which is the who. So it's not only younger people who are perhaps instantly more guided by the green credentials, but also the young people on social media. Difficult because, you've got that whole sort of age thing. We can't be targeting people. Facebook, you can get on from the age of 13. So we need to be very specific as to who we advertise to or who we reach out to organically. Need to be over the age of 18. And where are they? So straight away, I was talking today about how to create captivating content. And I was saying that at the end of the day, if you want to reach the, I don't know where I wrote that here, if you want to reach the sort of 30s or belows, then you need to focus on the fast twitch content. What do I mean by that? Well, you need to hit people within 3 minutes. ultimately, this is your mission in life. You need to have hit them before like 10 seconds, really. Let's be honest, 3 minutes. And that is the entirety. I think, what is it, 120 seconds for a YouTube short? So you need to do this very, very quickly. Several seconds is almost too much these days to show your hand. So let's think. TikTok, YouTube Shorts, these are shoo-ins. Increasingly, you'll find craft beer fans on the likes of Mastodon, on the likes of Blue Sky, and to some degree on X. It's an activists network, and I don't know what it is, but typically militants and activists tend to favor craft beer. Maybe it's because it makes them, improves their reputation among their peers. Irrespective of that, if I was going to choose one social network, and I would always advise, if you're looking to double down on your social media efforts, that you focus primarily on one social network, and then when you've cornered that market, then focus on other social networks. Now, I'm going to surprise you here. One social network would be, I think TikTok. I'm just not sure. Although Liquid Death did very well there. I think if you're able to tug on people's heartstrings with the whole green creds, I think TikTok could work effectively. But I don't know whether people who go to TikTok have the time to think about an agenda. They just want to be entertained or excited. It would be a real slow burner. Maybe the likes of Patagonia have had impact there. Anyone who's focused on green agendas, there'll probably be plenty there. And there's very many different ways that we can use TikTok analytics in business to find lookalike brands that we can jump on top of. Innocent Drinks is another good example. Any B Corp would be a great example to go, okay, have they had success on TikTok? Is this the right place for us? I don't know the answer to this, but that would be part of my next step of the discovery mission. Can I find the data that reinforces my hunch or turns my hunch into a hypothesis that TikTok might be a good place to achieve this sales attributed to social media increase of 25% within 12 months. But here's something else. People typically go to Reddit for longer form content. They've got more time to spend. And you know what? From a YouTube point of view, YouTube is going great guns right now. I was just watching a great interview style podcast between Ramesh Ranganathan and Jimmy Carr, all called The Big Pitch, where Jimmy interviews comedians. Now, this is looking slightly higher up the celebrity or the personality ladder, but there's no reason why you can't start now and build towards that. That is a very famous podcasting mission, is how can the red paperclip phenomenon, how can I find a guest that can introduce me to a higher caliber guest, and so on and so on and so on. That's how Joe Rogan became so popular. He climbed that ladder of guest popularity until he's now working with Bernie Sanders. He's now working, ironically, again with Jimmy Carr. He obviously has people like Mark Zuckerberg on the very highest echelon of celebrity now regularly come on Joe Rogan's show. So YouTube could be an outside chance. But the thing with social media that I'm a little bit concerned about is the 12-month thing. A year is not a long time in the world of social. It's 10 million years in the world of AI. But from a social media standpoint, 12 months to build a brand. We don't know whether this fictional craft brew collective is already alive and well on social, or whether they're starting from a stop. Who knows? But from a social media standpoint, my thinking is Instagram is also a good opportunity, because with Instagram, you can start right away working with influencers. So I'm thinking Instagram could also be a popularity. So you're starting to see now how all of these different social media networks have all different tactics and strategies and people behind them, and how, once you get to the bottom of understanding your audience better, which if you look here is the who in power, that's when you can increasingly, it's like breadcrumbs, it's like being a duck. You want to follow the breadcrumbs to the loaf. And this is what happens here, is that with social media, once you start to nibble away at all of these different analytics and start talking to your customers to find out where they are. More importantly, James Hoffman, the coffee guy, he did a lot of research before he started putting meaningful amounts of time into his YouTube channel to find out that YouTube was the right place. And this is why it's a mystery until you start acting. So I might audition myself in different social media networks. Each social media network demands a different format, and then maybe spend a month on a social media network. This is a lot when you think that we've got a 12-month window. But once you catch a drift, all of a sudden it becomes a snowball effect. So in recap, I've just started talking about the different benefits, and I know I've got a challenge task here. We've identified the core business challenge. You presented that to me. Thank you very much. The target audience and the needs, we've started talking about that. Key content pillars and messaging things we haven't. We've talked about content formats and challenges. The content distribution strategy, well, we know it's social media, and we talked about that at great depth with the auditioning to figure out which one works. Success metrics and KPIs, thank you very much. You've given that to me. Realistic implementation timeline, we've talked about the months, 1 month per social media network. Okay, budget resource requirements. This is where, if you're working with influencers, you're going to have to start putting your hand in your pocket. These people need paying. Social media content strategy, that will come. So I want to talk about the key content pillars and the messaging themes here, but you've kind of given me enough with the SWOT analysis here. We know there's a lot of demand, but there's a thirst. But we also know there's a lot of supply. So how do we stand out? We're going to get into that in just a minute. And then we also need to talk about the social media content strategy. So here's an interesting one. It's something that I was talking about a while ago. And this is just from the memory bank. People love beer, but they also love non-alcoholic beer. And we know that the 0% alcohol segment, I know because I've got a pregnant wife, and I know here in Germany, I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, but you have an alcohol-free beer, you look around the back and it's got trace ABV, 0.2 up to 0.5, and it says it's alcohol-free. What's all that about? Anyway, that's a rant. We can start figuring out what people want. Not only taste, just going to quickly check, see if there's been any chat. I don't think there has, because we've just started. That's all good. We know that people have different tastes. We know people have different things. They have different lenses. They have different windows of opportunity for you to serve. Non-alcoholic beverages goes really well with the green agenda because it tackles a audience that are very much free thinking, but also they understand the medical liabilities of drinking too much alcohol. So could we focus on, could we create a green beer? That's a good way to become viral. I know we've done that before with St. Patrick's Day. I think Guinness did that at one point. That might have been an April Fool's joke, thinking about it. Could we create a green beer that is non-alcoholic? Could we create a lime-based beer and then give farmers who harvest limes in developing countries an incentive to harvest limes for us, like a margarita beer, but non-alcoholic? So there's the thinking there. It's like we're thinking around, and this sort of speaks a little bit to the Scamper framework. The Scamper framework works alongside the Power framework at Word of Mouth by looking around the product that you're trying to sell, looking around the brand, looking around the business. The M in Scamper is modify. What can be changed? Well, we've got a range of alcoholic beers at this fictional collective. Can we start to look at non-alcoholic beers? That would certainly pique interest in a brand new segment. That speaks a lot to a audience that we're talking about trying to find on social media. Substitute, again, it works with that. What can be merged? Can we work with other, it's a collective. So we've got the power of multiple brands, I would imagine, or a collective might have a different meaning there. Can we join forces? What can be adjusted? Can we adjust the price? Can we adjust the brand? Can we adjust the people that are associated with it? Can we look into new hires that are already personalities? But I think the good thing about the collective here, I have a funny feeling the Craft Brew Collective will be a bunch of ne'er-do-wells and inspired people. And I think you've probably got the personalities on the brand here to get on social media, to be a bit cheeky, to understand and to talk and to respond and to be very customer forward. Jumping on questions on, I don't know if, let's have a look at Reddit. Here we go. I just want to show you a new feature here that you might not have seen before. This is something that I've started to use increasingly, and it's called Reddit Answers, and it's in beta or beta. And what I'll be saying is, which craft beers are doing especially well on Reddit, and what are the questions people are asking about craft beer that are largely unanswered or have multiple conflicting answers. By the way, I can't see what I'm typing here because I've got a little window saying Studio Restream IO is showing the window, which is not helpful. So what's happening now is Reddit is going to go and dive into its near infinite database of communities and questions. It's going to look into the beers that are raved about, because that's what I've asked in my question. And then it's going to look at like some of the questions and answers that are trending on Reddit. So tired of hazy IPA. So people are asking for recommendations. Social media. So let's think about this straight away. It's like, what about you become a concierge for craft beer? So instead of being sell, be more Gary Vaynerchuk with the jab, right hook philosophy, where you're constantly helping, you're over helping people, not necessarily about your brand or your business, but in that domain, which is what James does. James Hoffman, he's not pitching his coffee company, which he has. He's very much raising awareness of coffee. So from the craft beer collective point of view, these guys could be raising awareness of craft beer to people who don't drink craft beer. They could be like we're on a mission to eviscerate keg lager. And then they are abundant in giving suggestions and tips for people to get into the craft beer world. So clearly, Guinness is a big thing. Hazy IPA. So maybe these guys serve hazy IPAs. Maybe they could get into the homebrew world and start giving people advice on how they can clone craft brew collective beers at home, which they never will, by the way, because what this does is it kind of shows you just how much care and love goes into it. And therefore, the people who are watching are going to be like newfound respect for what you do. So you can do it in miniature, but actually the effort involved is impossible. And I've got some subreddits here that I can go into and do some further discovery work, the brewery, beer, craft beer. So if you're not into reddit.com/answers, I imagine that you should be there. So I think content pillars and messaging themes, we've gone through that in some detail, and I think we've got the content strategy. Now, one thing that we haven't talked about is the Get AI solution. So as we wrap up today's session, we'll then get an idea as to how AI might have solved this content marketing strategy conundrum. And in the future, I'm going to be sharing with you what AI makes of what I've done to compare what AI would have come up with, what a human would come up with, so we can see how we can complement each other. But in a nutshell, we've got a quadrant here, haven't we, with four different areas. We've got the strategic approach, we've got the implementation timelines, we've got the recommendations, and we've got the expected outcomes, which, as you would imagine, meet or exceed the 25% increase in B2B inquiries and direct-to-consumer D2C sales attributed to social media. So what we're talking about here in a nutshell, brand perception, increasingly perceived as a responsible, forward-thinking brand, sustainable practices. Yes, we agree on that. Increased engagement, likes, shares, comments, and saves. Well, sustainability content, often highly shareable. Yes, among a certain audience. If that's the same audience as wants to drink your beer, is questionable. Improved website traffic quality, social media clicks. Yeah, this is just more about the outcomes. This is how we get there, which is brilliant. B2B inquiry growth, showcasing sustainability. It makes businesses seem invested in the future and invested in community, society, sustainability. It's all good. Environmentally conscious consumers. We've covered all that. So recommendations: partner spotlight, sustainable supply chain, focus on partners. Love it, love it, love it. We've always talked about that. When you do discovery work, talk to customers, talk to suppliers, talk to colleagues, and if you can, talk to the competition. You can do that in a variety of ways. There's some good ideas here. Sustainability fact versus fiction. Ask us anything. Yes, once you're established on social media and people are genuinely interested and you give them the reason to. Product lifecycle visuals, probably wouldn't have done that. Again, it depends. If you want to focus on a more scientific crowd, people are visual learners, this could be something that you plow the furrow of further down the line. Sustainability impact updates and goals, always good. Ticker tapes, how we're doing. If you've got particular missions in mind, this always works. Sustainable roots video series, I love that. I think this is probably a great place to finish our show today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've had some fun learning. Thank you for just sticking around. It's been quite a long session, 26 minutes. We'll cut it down for next time. I'm Dave from Word of Mouth. We deliver content strategy, we deliver communications coaching, and we also deliver internal communications consultancy. And we'll have a better background for next time. But until then, have a great day. Thank you.